Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off, online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Noah Castle. Noah is a college track coach at Eastern Illinois University, specifically for the throwers. Noah attended the University of Kentucky and was a two-time All-American in shot put in 2019, outdoor discus in 2018. Noah also won a bronze medal at the SEC Championships for outdoor shot put in 2018. Noah, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, no problem. It's gonna be a fun one. So, to start off, like, how are you? Like, we're all in these weird times right now with COVID going on. So, like, and like getting back into like school and all that. So, like, how are you?
I'm good. Our student athletes came back to school a couple weeks ago, so we are, fortunate enough to be on campus right now. We are in a little bit of a hybrid model, but most of our student athletes are back on campus, and we're able to train, even though it looks a little different right now. But we are able to hold practice. Our staff is in the office, so we're doing a lot better than some other institutions.
Yeah, that's for sure. And so, like, let's get a little background information on you. So, like, can you give us like a little background information, like why, like the sports you played in like high
Yeah.
school, college, and like why you started throwing?
Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting story. I actually was mainly football, basketball for most of my life. I think, I grew up playing every sport there was. I'm from a pretty small town in Northwest Ohio, so that's just kind of what you did. And then I think it was seventh or eighth grade. I told my dad I just wanted to focus on basketball. He didn't like that very much, so he made me pick up something in the spring. It was either going to be band or track and field. And most of my friends did track and field, so I kind of went out there, gave it a try, and wasn't very good right away. I think junior high, I was like the third best kid on my team. And then just got really lucky. I had an awesome high school coach, Kyle Borton, who threw at the University of Cincinnati. And he kind of molded me into a good high school thrower. I threw 189 in the discus and like mid 50s in shot put, which eventually led me to the University of Kentucky. Through there for 4 years, like you covered it pretty well in the intro. And then after 4 years there, started here at EIU.
Yeah, so like what made you get into like football and basketball? Like why was that gonna be like your main focus compared to like
Mm-hmm.
before like you did track and like
Mm-hmm.
what was like your overall experience? Because I think you're in all state in
Mm-hmm.
football as well. So like you must have been on a pretty good team. So like what was that like whole like all that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a blast. I think, coming from, like I said, my town was like 6,000 ish people. So football was like a way of life there, and so is basketball, honestly. And I think, track and field is really fun. And if you're at a good place, you can get that good team culture going. But, playing football, I think anybody that went through that high school experience and was on a good team and got to play with their friends, that's an experience that you really cherish going forward just because of the family atmosphere of everything that gets created. And I think, I definitely take a lot of those lessons from coaches I had in football and basketball and just experiences I had with teammates in football and basketball, now into my professional career as a coach, just trying to create that culture of like family and, brotherhood, sisterhood, coaching both genders now. And I think there's just a lot of life lessons you can learn from sport in general, that can be applied like pretty universally across the board.
Yeah, I feel like that culture is like a very important aspect of like any sport. Like you definitely have to have that culture and like it comes with confidence as well. Like once you have like the culture, the confidence of the team morale, everything is super high and like it just goes a lot smoother than compared if it's not.
Yeah, and I think, we always talk about here, especially when we're recruiting athletes, that, culture comes first and then it's academics and then it's athletics. And we say that because, if the culture is not there, if kids hate showing up to practice and they hate being at the university, it's almost impossible for academics and athletics to go well. So if you don't lay that foundation of, this is, our big thing here is family. If we're not being a family on the track, off the track, on the weekends, whatever, it's going to be a really, really difficult time for you to succeed, either academically or athletically here.
Yeah, and the most successful team is that culture is already there and just grows and grows and grows and
Yeah.
continues to lead to good success for the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what made you choose like throwing in college over football or basketball? Did like any schools look at you for like football or like or basketball or like what was that decision like?
Yeah, so I was a bit of a late bloomer in terms of football. So again, I came from a small town and didn't really do camps or anything like that. So by the time I started getting like smaller Division 1 interests, I had already committed for track and field. That was the first year that the early signing period had opened up, so I'd signed in November. And I think honestly, like what made the decision for me was track and field was the avenue that could take me to the highest level. It was Division 2 or Division 3, or schools in the SEC, the Big Ten. And I think I just personally I wanted the experience of going to the highest level in whatever sport I could. And I'm a pretty competitive person, so that was a huge incentive for me, was getting able to compete against the best in the country, and guys who are now going on to be the best in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like what was like the biggest thing you learned from your college track career that you like express like your other athletes and like other athletes that are listening to this and just like what you think that you got they should do to be successful like you were.
Yeah, I think that probably the number one thing taking away is just, and I know that this is a huge buzzword now, is like trusting the process. And my first 2 years at UK didn't go very well, and then my junior and senior year kind of took off a little bit. Went through a coaching change between year 3 and year 4, which was pretty difficult early on, but ended up, Coach McBride and Coach Nano are both huge mentors of mine and have taught me so much about throwing and life in general. But going back to the process, I think it's important to have goals and it's important to have that results oriented mindset. But how we get there is because of what we do in the process. So it's being able to stack positive days on top of each other. I know a lot of the guys that you guys interview are semi-pro hockey players, or guys trying to make it to the next step in their hockey journey or their athletics journey in general. And so I think it's really easy to get swept away and I'm not here, or if I could only be here, I'll be happier or better financially secure or whatever. But if you can stack positive days and positive training sessions and positive weeks on top of each other, that's how you end up getting to the result that you want. So I think, track and field, we practice all this time for maybe 3 important meets every year. So it teaches you really that you have to be process oriented. You have to make sure that you're doing the right things and stacking those positive days on top of each other. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're working on here now as well.
Yeah, I feel like all athletes, like if you want to get to that next level, you just gotta trust the process, and like success doesn't happen overnight. So
Yeah.
you just gotta keep
Yeah.
working on it, working every single day to achieve your goal, and just keep getting that 1% better each day.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult now too because I know there's a ton of throws Instagram accounts, and we are so connected via YouTube and social media in general. So it's really easy to look at. I was on a team with this guy 2 years ago, and now he's doing this. But his journey is everybody has their own journey, and I think it's important sometimes to kind of shut out what other people are doing and just put your blinders on and say, okay, this year I'm dedicating to making myself better than I was at the start of this year, and then that's how you're going to make the next level. So I think it's easy to get sucked into kind of the copycat mentality because we do have the ability to see what other people are doing so much. Um, but again, I think that comes with maturity as well. That's something that's really difficult to do. But I think the people who are the best in the world can definitely put their blinders on when they need to.
Yeah, exactly. And like just from the podcast right now, and just like all the guests we've interviewed and all that, just their stories are completely different, each and every one, and they know how to get to the next level. They keep working. They kept working every single day, no days off. Just keep like doing what they want to do for their sport, and it definitely shows that if you keep doing that and stick to that process, that good things will happen, and you'll go on for history.
Yeah, and I mean everybody has different skills too. Everybody has different things that they're good at, and like you said, it's everybody has their own individual journey. That's why I think having the opportunity to listen to podcasts is awesome, and to see how this guy went from point A to point B, and this guy and this guy and this guy, and realizing that they are all different. So I think it's important to understand that, but also find the commonalities between all of them. Like you said, all of them pretty much just decided that they were going to work really hard day in, day out. And then, their individual journey kind of took over after that.
Yeah, and they also said that you just gotta focus on yourself. You can't worry about what other people are doing. You just gotta focus on you and just keep going through the grind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so going into college to University of Kentucky, like what was the recruitment process like, and like what made you pick UK as your school to go
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, so like I said, I had thrown 189 in the discus as a junior, and I think at the time was sixth in the country in that. So I was pretty highly recruited for that. Shot put wasn't quite as good. I just wasn't. I was pretty underdeveloped. I played three sports all the way through, so I just didn't throw very much. And to be honest, in high school, it really didn't interest me a whole ton because I was playing football and basketball, and that was more fulfilling at the time for me. And I really started taking throwing seriously when I was like, oh crap, I'm pretty good at this. Should probably figure out, this could be my route to high level competition. Um, so I visited UK, LSU, Cornell, Cincinnati, and Indiana. And I think it's funny at the time I never was going to go to UK, never. I was literally just going there to hang out with a friend of mine who I had known from high school who was on the team. I was like, it's free. They pay for it. I'll just go down and like hang out. And then just kind of fell in love with the university and with the team. And right off the bat, just hit it off with all of the guys that were there in the throws group and Coach Nino. We bonded like that. And I just never felt that on any other visit. And then I took one more visit after that and definitely didn't get the same vibe. Um, so yeah, I just kind of shut it down and knew that that was my home. So I guess the deciding factor for me was more so like the culture and the family aspect that we talked about earlier. I knew that on the days that track wasn't going well or school wasn't going well, I would still have, my friends there. And then now, I have 8 best friends that we still talk all the time. So I think it was a really positive decision for me.
Yeah, what a story there. Like you weren't considering going there, and then all of a sudden it changed, and you made the most of your time at UK. So can't complain about that.
No, it was pretty great. And like I said, yeah, I had no intention. I literally had it pretty much had it down in my head to 2 schools that weren't UK. And it just kind of happened that, you take that chance of going on the visit, and then I ended up falling in love with the place and the people there. And like you said, I wouldn't trade my 4 years there for anywhere else. I walked away with lifelong friends and a lot of great memories. and was fortunate enough to compete at a pretty high level thanks to the guys I was training with and the coaches as well. So I think it was definitely the best place for me.
Yeah, so you're a two-time All-American while you were at Kentucky. So like take us through like those seasons that you were All-American, like
Yeah,
the overall like feeling like getting nominated for All-American.
yeah, yeah. So I think my junior year was the first one. Like I said, had a struggled indoor a little bit, but kind of picked it up outdoor, and then actually got hurt lifting. Caught a power clean weird and just kind of banged up my knee and missed 6 weeks of competition. And going into the SEC championship, was just trying to, I don't know, piece it together, make my coach happy. Discus was my main event that year, and I PR'd, had a big PR earlier in the year, and I was like, discus is my thing. That's tomorrow. So just kind of went out for shot put, had fun, and then just kind of ended up PRing, made it into the final. Then ended up throwing 1924, which was like a 2 foot PR, I think, at the time. And that year was the best shot put competition at the conference level of all time in the SEC, and ended up getting fourth. And then came back discus the next day and got third, which I think for me was just a really big confidence booster going forward because I had never been at that level where I was competing with the big dogs in the conference and in the national level. And then basically went to regionals, made it out in discus and shot put, rolled my ankle the last throw of warmups, and basically had a great assistant coach give me some awesome advice about just toughing it out a little bit, and then ended up my shot put PR. Still to this day, it was actually on the very next throw. So just kind of got a big adrenaline rush, went after it, and then made it out in both events to the national meet. And then once you make it there, you're pretty much an All-American. So was lucky to do that. And then the next year, like I said, coaching change. So a little bit more of a difficult route. Conference meet didn't go so well indoor. Ended up getting ninth at the indoor championships, and then outdoor qualified in both again. So I think it was a pretty up and down journey. The junior year battled through some odd, just random chance injuries. And then senior year, with the coaching change, I think everybody says this, but if we had 6 more months together, I really think that I would have taken off under Coach McBride. It's just tough when you make that transition 3 years in and you only have 9 months to kind of figure it out. And, I think he did an awesome job of kind of molding what he does to work for me as well, which is, I think, why we did have success towards the later season. And, I do think if we had some more time together, we would have definitely taken off. But yeah, up and down journey. I think everybody kind of track and field is one of those weird things. There's so many qualification meets and things like that it's just a roller coaster all the way through.
Yeah, so you faced some obstacles throughout the course of that. So like, what was your mindset like when you got injured from the lifting, and then like when you rolled your ankle? And I know you said your coach gave you a pep talk, like especially during that like lifting incident. Like, what was your mindset and like try to get past that and just get better while being injured?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing with the lifting one is I know it was my fault. I tried going a little too hard, probably in a macho incident, which is classic among most college males. So I think the biggest thing for me was just like taking ownership up front. And, honestly, I would say it was more the coaches and the athletic training staff that just gave me the attitude that, hey, we're going to miss some time. You can either get better or you can get worse. Like it's a pretty binary choice. You can take this time and throw yourself a pity party and then waste the rest of this year. So I was really coming on strong at that point. Like I said, I had just PR'd in discus and was really having an awesome year to that point. And it was kind of my time to break out. So, I think in my own head, I was like, man, this is really unfair. This is my time. But then I think I was really fortunate that people around me kept pushing me. So when I did come back, like I was ready to go 100%. And honestly, I was probably hungrier because I hadn't competed in so long that, I was really hungry to prove that, I could do it coming off of injury. And I think the people around me did an awesome job of just putting me in a really, really great position.
So would you say like when you got like ninth in the conference and like you didn't have that great of meet, your coaches and teammates were like the exact same, just like helped you through that? like just to push you through that and just like get like your mind right going in the
Yeah.
next meet.
Yeah, I mean, I think, through and through, I think that's the through line through my entire story is being surrounded by great people, whether it's at the high school level or the college level or now in my professional life. Um, when things weren't going exactly my way, they were always there to pick me up and kind of put me back in the ring, whether I thought I was ready to or not, and just kind of push me to go to that next level. And that's why, having a good training group is so important, and having the right people around you who are positive and picking you up is really, really important. And I don't think, I definitely know I wouldn't have reached the levels that I did. And I think most people who are high achievers wouldn't have either without, positive mentorship, positive colleagues around them as well.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed in the podcast we've done as well. And like especially for me, like you just gotta surround yourself with good people, good supportive people, and like your performance will get a lot better when you're with those instead of like the doubters. And like even though the
Yeah.
doubters do push you, but like just like the people that just hate on you for that, for like doing what you want, just having those good people with you and supporting you just helps a whole lot, and like makes it so much more better to go into the going to your next meet, your next race, your next game, whatever it is, just to to outperform the other guy.
Yeah. And I think, that's, you again, it's important to have those positive people around you because, like you said, the doubters and the haters or whatever you want to call them can fuel you. But eventually, anger is an emotion that burns really hot, but it runs out fast. So if you're relying on that every single day to motivate you, at some point that's going to run out. And then, where's the internal motivation that you're trying to do something for yourself or the people that have cared for you for your life or your mentors or your parents or your family or your friends? So I think it's important to have the positive energy around you because again, the negativity is great and I think can spur you on to really good things. But if you're relying on that every single day, eventually that runs out and you just become a bitter person who the whole entire world is out to get you. And I think, in the long run, if you're trying to make a jump, to the next professional league, or if you're trying to throw after college, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, you can't rely on negativity forever.
Yeah, exactly. And college is a hard like place to play a sport because like all the competition is a lot harder and all that. And like going from like your freshman year of college to like your senior year of college, like how how did your body like transform like as a thrower standpoint, and like gaining muscle and all that, and like what was like that like was it difficult or like was it like easier for you?
Yeah, I think, coming in, I weighed like 240. Like I said, I played football and basketball. I'm like 6'4", so I was a pretty slight frame. And I think the heaviest I ever got was like 300 towards the end of my senior year. Um, and again, a lot of peaks and valleys, in through that. But my freshman year, I was on weight gain, so just tried to eat as much as I could, and pack on muscle. And I think I put on like 20, 30 pounds pretty quickly. Not necessarily great weight, but ended up, like I said, kind of cutting in the summer and then building up the rest of the way through. So I think the transformation's difficult. I think for male throwers specifically, like you have to be a man to perform at the highest level because you are going against, in college, if you're 18, you're going against 22 to 23 year olds. And, if you want to be relevant on the national scene right away, you have to compete against those guys. So you really have to flip the switch from boy to man pretty instantaneously, which is difficult for a lot of men. The weight changes from high school to college as well. So I think for a lot of men struggle with that transition, but I think you really see it start to pay off in year 3 and year 4.
Yeah, and just going back to like the eating part, like eating a lot is hard. Like I try to
Yeah.
do that just to gain more muscle and all that, and like you have to eat a lot, and it definitely is hard. So, but like just lifting as well, just like you got to do it, and it makes you stronger. So just gain muscle from there. It's
Yeah.
no better feeling than that.
Yeah. And I think, specifically within the throws, like lifting is pretty paramount to what we do. It is a power sport, a speed power sport. So, I think if you're going to compete at a higher level in throwing, you know that that's a big part of what you have to do. I think what people do miss out on though is the recovery aspect, whether it's the hydration, the sleep, the eating. I know I struggled with that in college because you are balancing a social life, academics, and on top of that, trying to be a high level athlete. And I think the people who can balance all three of those really well are the ones who end up kind of rising to the top by the end of their time in college.
Yeah, so, like, for lifting, like, what are some of the, like, the lifts that you do, like, specifically
Yeah.
for throwers, like, to get that, like, explosiveness and that speed and, like so, like, what exercises would you do?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a big believer in, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I think things have been done for hundreds of years that work and they just show up in reincarnations all the time. So a lot of things we do are pretty simple. We get the more complex work done when we're throwing. But we're going to do Olympic lifts, so that's clean and snatch, bench, squat, incline bench, and then it's different accessories that are mainly, we're working the back a lot because we don't do a lot of pulling. Obviously, throwing is mainly a pressing movement. So we do a lot of back work, hamstring work, glute work in the weight room. And then, just different accessories like dumbbell bench, dumbbell incline bench, just to kind of work on the pressing a little bit more. So, yeah, I mean, really the only lifts that we're trying to do super fast are the Olympic lifts. Um, we have a variety of implements that we throw at practice from heavy to light to kind of work on the speed as well. It just kind of depends on the time of year that we're in. But yeah, mainly pretty simple Olympic lifting and then just bench, squat. And, like I said, try not to reinvent the wheel too much.
Yeah, does, like, all the lifting, like, stuff change, like, off season, in season, or do you
Mhm.
typically, like, keep it the same?
Yeah, so I mean, it rotates depending on where we are. In the summer, some people stay here. I mean, obviously this year with COVID, everyone was home, so it was very dependent on what equipment they had. So we did a lot of body weight stuff. We didn't do a lot of Olympic lifting in the summer, um, just because some of our people were pretty new to it. So we mainly focused on the strength lift, so bench, squat, front squat, barbell incline bench. Right now, we're doing Olympics twice a week with bench squat corresponding. And then we have a third day that's just kind of a circuit day, just kind of keep it moving. That's throwers cardio as well. We're wearing masks everywhere too. So, it's difficult to get a lot of stadiums or things like that in because it's difficult to breathe, especially for the bigger people. So, we're trying to get some cardio work in the circuit area. And then once we do transition into our in season, we try to do a lot of our stuff based on velocity. So how fast the bar is moving. The reps obviously go way down once we're in season, and it becomes more supplementary to what we're doing. So we're just trying to move the bar fast and all the lifts that we do, or move the dumbbells fast, whatever, and really train our body to move at the speed that we want to press the shot put or move the discus or the hammer or whatever we're working on.
Yeah, so going back to that that's awesome. That's some great advice and great tips that you guys or great insight that you just gave. So going back to high school a little bit, like was it like your junior year? You said that like you realized that you could be like really good and like what motivated you from there?
Yeah, I think, my sophomore year I did pretty well. I got fourth at state in Ohio, which like Ohio is an awesome track and field state. And then my junior year got second with, over 180 feet. Honestly, I think what motivated me was just more so like seeing it as my opportunity to take the next step to a really, really high level. Like I said, I'm a super competitive person. So, I think what motivated me was getting the opportunity to be the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, and compete in the SEC, and be able to be relevant, go to a school where I knew would be relevant on the national level year in and year out. So I think honestly, I was pretty motivated by success, and just seeing, at that time when I was getting recruited, only the true diehard throwers will know these names, but Andrew Evans and Rodney Brown were throwing at UK and LSU. And it was like those guys, every single meet were throwing like top 10 all time college marks. And, being both in the SEC and then just every single meet, they were like one upping each other. And I think that was really fun to watch as a high schooler getting recruited. And it's in my head being like, I'll be able to go to a place where I could be a part of that, I think was really enticing.
Yeah, so going into like high school, like do you have any advice for like high school throwers out there that are looking to get college like exposure and
Yeah.
get into that college level?
Yeah, I think most of the people we recruit are multi-sport athletes, first and foremost. I think, if you want to focus on track, that's fine. But, we're in the business of developing student athletes. So I think it's important that you do play multiple sports. One, it shows that you're athletic, shows you can be part of a team. It shows a lot about you from a personality standpoint, but also the different movements. If you're a female and you play volleyball, the explosiveness you have in jumping, the arm movement that you have in spiking. There's a lot of things that correlate to the throws. General athleticism is huge. Um, and track and field's pretty easy to recruit, honestly, because it's just databases of numbers. So if you've thrown a certain mark, and we look you up, you play multiple sports, you got your football huddle video up, you got your basketball, your volleyball, soccer, whatever other sports you play, that definitely makes you more attractive. And then I think, the obvious one would be grades. I think, again, we're in the business of developing student athletes. So the better grades you have, the more academic scholarship money you can get, the more we trust that you're a high character individual. And then we know that you're going to work hard here, academically and athletically. So yeah, I think just the well-rounded athletes are really important, playing the multiple sports, and then grades. We look at how you interact with your teammates, your parents. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, but honestly, at the end of the day, it's just being a good person, and trying to throw far.
Yeah, so a multi-sport athlete, like that's super important. Like it's like the shit. What's the word? It's like consistent with it with track that like just be a multi-sport athlete and like you could be very successful and like athletic. Like I see a lot of football, basketball players come to do track. So it's always like I'm a multi-sport athlete. I play baseball, hockey, cross
Mhm.
country, track and field, like all that. And it definitely all of those sports definitely do help you become a better athlete overall and a better track and field star as well, and as well as cross country. So
Yeah.
it's always good to get to see multi-sport athletes out there.
Yeah, and I think, again, throwing specifically is a very repetitive movement. And I think, if you're doing that for 15 years, it's really easy to get a lot of injuries in that as well. And I think there's a lot of studies that have come out recently that show the dangers of early specialization in kids. So the more sports you play, obviously probably the less injury prone you are on the whole once you get to 4 years of just training in the throws. And then, like you said, it just shows a level of, consistency, commitment to something bigger than yourself, especially within the team sports. And then, just the general movements from all sports make you more athletic. The footwork in basketball, the jumping in volleyball, the footwork in soccer, all of those things. You don't have to do any fancy exercises. Just go out and play. Those are things going to make you a better athlete.
Exactly. So like let's go on to like your coaching for a little bit here. So
Mhm.
what made you like realize that you want to be a throws coach, and like how do you get like hired at EIU to be a
Mhm.
throws coach?
Yeah, I think why I wanted to be a throws coach is I didn't want to do a real job, quote unquote. I didn't really see myself fitting into a 9 to 5 culture, and staring at a computer screen and doing that every single day. That's just not my personality. I like to be outside when I can. I always knew I wanted to work in sports. I just didn't know where. And then I think, my junior year, I probably realized, once I started doing really well, and then looking back and being able to name like 4 or 5 coaches, be like, man, without that guy, I would have never gotten here. And I think, I wanted to give that experience to other student athletes as well. Because, going back to being from a small town, I got to travel the country on a private jet with UK all over the country, California, Texas, Oregon. And I think not many people get that experience. So I wanted to be in a position where I could give people an opportunity to experience that. Um, and then, obviously going through a coaching change, they were very different philosophically in terms of the workouts we did. I think personality wise, they're also a little different. And it was interesting for me to see like both ways can be successful. How can I marry those concepts and kind of take the best from both of my throws coaches and mash it all into one philosophy. And I think, so far we've had some success with that. Um, coming here to EIU, I think was a pretty stressful process. I didn't start until September of last year. So, there was a time I graduated and worked a retail job for like 3 months, just trying to figure it out and applying to places. And then, in the coaches world, it's all about who you know. And luckily knew some pretty good people who helped me out a ton. And then ended up landing here. And I think, honestly, again, I'm very fortunate that I think this is definitely the best place for me to be right now.
Yeah, that's awesome that like you knew a lot of people and like got you like where you are right now, and it just
Yeah.
shows that like just knowing people like will get you places, and it's definitely like around the world now that like connections are a huge thing, and
Yeah.
just connecting with people, and like you never know what could happen.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to talking about recruiting, just trying to be a good person. Um, if you're generally nice or fun to be around or interesting to the people that you meet, eventually those people go to bat for you. And again, like I said, I'm not shy about admitting that I'm very fortunate to know people that did go to bat for me. But I think people looking for other coaching jobs or something like that, the more people you can network with and the more people you can be nice to, talk with, learn from, the better position you're going to be into to get a job.
Yeah, exactly. So going on, what is like your coaching philosophy?
Um, from the specific throw standpoint or just like in
Yeah,
general?
from the specific throws standpoint.
Again, throwing is highly individual. I think there's, people say management is a combination of art and science, and I think throwing is very similar. There is a lot of art in movement, but also we live in a physical universe where biomechanics matter. So I think there's certain things that you can't get away with not doing in the throw. So I think it's figuring out first and foremost how the athlete moves best. I have a female that's like 6 foot. I have a female who's like 5'6", 5'7". They move differently, but they can both be really successful. And I think if you look at the international level, the women's discus is a prime example. There's females who are super tall and do it, move a little slower. And then there's females who are a little bit more explosive and move really fast and are really elastic in terms of their movements. So I think my coaching philosophy with regards to the throws is, one, we're here to throw. Weight room is important, but we don't go to weightlifting competitions. We go to throwing competitions. So what we do out there is always going to take precedence. Individual. So we're trying to figure out how the individual moves and then create a technique that works for them. And then, Pep Guardiola, who's the manager for Manchester City, probably the best soccer manager of all time, with the 08 to 12 Barcelona teams. But anyway, he has a great quote about, coaching is all like being a caddy in golf. I can help you pick the clubs, but at the end of the day, like, you have to hit the shot. And so I think that's what I tell, our guys and gals all the time is my job is to help you mess up the least possible. It's your path. You have to walk it. But when you get off, I just kind of nudge you back on. So I think, and that helps them take ownership with what they're doing. I think it motivates them, quite honestly. And like I said, getting away from the one size fits all idea, I think really helps them too in terms of their individual development.
Yeah, that's a great philosophy right there, and like just motivates everyone else that's with you, and your athletes just motivates them even more to just do as much as they can, just stay consistent with their training and just see their growth go up.
Yeah, and I think, if you are coming to high level athletics and, I'll say Division 1, but there's obviously a buttload of high level athletes in Division 2, Division 3, NAIA, all of those things as well. If you are making the jump to the next level, it's inherent to me that you want to be good. Obviously there's exceptions to that rule, but my job is to kind of keep the motivation consistent, and it's kind of, I don't really think we need to be like yellers and screamers and put people down in terms of like when they mess up, because I think everybody wants to do good things. So again, I think a great coach's job is to kind of guide you. You know, you're a little too far right off the path, we're pushing you left. You get a little too far left, we're pushing you right. And letting their journey be theirs instead of imposing your own ego onto it, I think is really important too. And again, if you look at a lot of high level coaches, whether it's Pep Guardiola, Phil Jackson, you know, college coaches left and right, you know, they definitely took that advice to heart.
Exactly, and you just got to keep believing in that and keep going with it. So Noah, I have a few more questions for you before we end this. So, what are some of your long-term goals for coaching?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think it's making EIU the best possible Rose powerhouse we can be. You know, we live in an awesome area in terms of Illinois. That's an awesome talent state, and obviously the states around us are really talented as well. So I think first and foremost, making this place, you know, dominant within the Ohio Valley Conference and then relevant on the national level as a group, I think is my current goal. And then long-term goal, just kind of wherever I am, bring that same energy to where, you know, we're developing student athletes. You know, kids are graduating in 4 years. We have high-level GPAs. We're getting good jobs. We're going to grad school because, you know, track and field eventually has to end. Even if you're super, super, you know, best in the world, you make it to like 28, 29. So, you know, what are we going to do after 28, 29 until retirement? So we got 40 years to kind of figure out there. So I think that's really important. And then within the track and field aspect, you know, whether I am or wherever I am, you know, just to have that, you know, we're going to dominate the conference and we're going to be, you know, perennially have one to five people, you know, at the conference meet, I think is a big goal of mine. And, you know, again, that all starts with culture. So I think the biggest long-term goal for me is wherever I am, that student athletes want to be there. They want to get better because if they do, I think they ultimately will do their job in terms of getting better.
Yeah, those are some great goals, and I want to wish you the best of luck for those goals, and I hope
Thanks.
you achieve them. So my final question of the day is, how do you think how is track and field going to be affected this upcoming track season with COVID-19 coming into play?
Yeah, I think you know, it's obviously scary. I think there's some programs that are getting cut right now. If you look at the Minnesota men's team, which is a really shocking development. Obviously, you know, training looks a little bit different now. You know, we're training in groups of like 4 or 5, which makes the practice day a little bit longer for me, which honestly I like. I don't have to sit in the office that much. Um, so I think obviously training in smaller groups, training in a socially distant way, we're wearing our masks while we're working out. Um, I think the biggest thing that's going to be difficult at the college level is how do we keep kids from getting COVID on the weekends? But again, you know, I think goes back to culture. You know, are they buying into success? You know, I think at EIU we have a chance to win conference championships year in and year out. So if you can't commit to that ring, you know, what are you doing here? If you can commit to that ring, you know, I think you are making good decisions on the weekend with regards to socially distancing, wearing a mask, etc. Um, but I think, you know, it's been inspiring. You know, you look around the world, you know, Johannes Vetter almost threw the world record in the javelin. Valerie Almonds broke the American record. Rudy Winkler threw 80-72 in the hammer. You know, there's been amazing results throughout the entirety of lockdown from around the world, and not just within track and field. But, you know, if you've been training and you're willing to train through adversity, I think this is going to be a great year. You know, I told my athletes, this is probably going to be the lowest year it takes to qualify for big meets because not everybody's equipped to handle that adversity and keep going. So the team that's able to stay the most positive and be flexible and to work through all of the different configurations that we're going to have in training is going to be the team that's successful. So I think, you know, if you have the right mentality and the right mindset, that this could be a really, really big year for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta take what you can control and just go with it. Like this is not a great year, but you can make it a great year just by doing
Yeah,
what you can, just not doing the stuff like not wearing a mask, like you should be wearing a mask and like all that, and just like focusing on training and not going out like partying, like trying and getting COVID and all that. Just
yeah.
stay home, stay committed to training and succeed.
Yeah, and I think it's that's definitely a difficult battle because we do want them hanging out to build culture, but we obviously want them to do it in the right way so that
Yeah.
we're building culture and not you know passing on the virus because this obviously doesn't even need to be said as a very serious pandemic. So I think that is first and foremost. But again, you look around the world landscape, people are PRing left and right. This has been again a really inspiring year within American throws and within the world scene. So I think again, if you can kind of put your head down, we talked about putting on the blinders earlier. If you can kind of put on your blinders to what's going on in the outside world and obviously be socially responsible, this could be a really, really big year for a lot of athletes and a lot of teams.
Yeah, exactly. So Noah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and want to wish you and EIU nothing but the best of luck going forward this season.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem.